Hello?
Hey Kev, it's Justin.
Oh, hey buddy, how's it going?
Slight problem actually. Remember we had a poll up that would determine the next game series we would cover, and it actually ended up turning out to be the Golden Game series, which we would talk about older games?
Oh yeah, you were doing one for an N64 game. Actually, have you gotten any further than the script has been written?
Well, see, that's the problem. There's a special that you obviously know about that's taken a lot more time to put together than I thought, so I honestly haven't had a chance to work on the Golden Games video.
Oh, that's a pain. So what are we going to do? Bring back the 7 minutes or less and save Golden Games for next year?
Well, I was thinking since you were able to acquire an N64 recently, do you happen to have a game that you loved, I don't know, a while ago in your youth or whatever, that you could recommend to use as our first Golden Games video?
Oh, yes. Although the N64 was the fourth console I owned growing up, it's the one I have the most fond memories of. There were so many great games for it, but there was one in particular that mostly seemed to pass under the radar that I absolutely loved. ShadowMan, developed by Acclaim, was released on 4 platforms, with the PC version getting the highest rating, but the N64 and Dreamcast versions were very close behind. The PlayStation version didn't fare too well, but for this we'll be looking solely at the N64 version. I love all things horror, and ShadowMan was the first horror game I ever played. It seriously creeped me and my friends out when the game was first released back in 1999. The game is loosely based on the comic book series of the same name by Valiant, with the events of the game being adapted into one of the comics. It all revolves around Michael Leroy, who was turned into the ShadowMan, a voodoo warrior, by Nettie, a voodoo priestess. As the ShadowMan, Mike is able to travel between live sides, the world of the living, and dead sides, the world of unicorns and rainbows, using a teddy bear that belonged to Mike's younger brother Luke before he died.
You got my stuff?
Right here.
Jesus, Luke, he's alive. Alive and in pain. I've got to help him.
He is dead, Mike. You know that.
I know, but I saw.
It's understandable that you still have strong feelings for your brother. That's why the bear works for you, connecting you to Dead's side.
You have to gather dark souls, which the bad guy wants, but I'll let him introduce himself and tell you about it.
My name is Legion, for we are many.
What is it that you want from me?
You are an architect by trade, are you not?
I am.
Then I would have you build a cathedral to pain, a place where you and I and others like us may join together, a place of asylum for all of the unique and misunderstood individuals that will follow you as the time of Armageddon approaches. And at the heart of asylum, we shall construct a great dark engine powered by souls of equal hue, and we shall harness their power to create an immortal army to punish and cleanse this pathetic world.
Okay,
ShadowMan himself
so let me
sums
get
things
this
up quite
straight.
nicely.
If I don't recover these dark souls, then the world's gonna end. Am I right?
You got it.
Shit.
Legion has his minions helping him, 5 serial killers known as the Five. Each member also has a backstory. One of them is actually Jack the Ripper. I love reading files about characters' backstories and in-game events, and some of the things you find to read in ShadowMan are absolutely fascinating. The game has a huge focus on exploration and is pretty much a Metroid game on the N64. As you find more Dark Souls, your shadow powers gradually increase, allowing you to open coffin gates which were sealed by your predecessor in an attempt to prevent evil spreading through Deadside. The routes through Deadside, known as the Paths of Shadow, lead to all sorts of places, with you getting a nice speech when you come across somewhere new.
And into Asylum, like a great black engine roaring to eternity. ravaging the already benighted landscape with its savage, malevolent presence. And within the legions of the truly damned, insanity, sheer and stark, and once in human form, now gutted and torn by eons of glutted indulgence. Their bloodlust flecking the oily walls, living in the shrieks of victims ensnared, hanged, drawn, and quartered by the serpent's squalid writhings. This is the place I have not wanted to dream of, and the dream is now the place I partly live through.
It's quite easy to get lost or know somewhere you want to be but can't remember how to get there, but luckily the game came with a heavily simplified map. You could just run around hoping to stumble across the right place, but I hate having to do that, so for me the map was an absolute saviour. If you get stuck, you can speak to Nettie or her dead side assistant Jaunty, though he's usually more sarcastic than helpful.
Well, I've not even come close to one.
Ah, poor you. Let me put it this way. If you were trying to keep a source of immortal cosmic power from falling into the hands of the ultimate and evil, would you leave that source of immortal cosmic power just lying around the place for the world and his wife to stumble across?
I guess not.
Well then, you're going to have to look a little harder, aren't you?
I guess so.
And Michael?
Yes?
I wouldn't worry your pretty little bald head about it too much. I mean, it's only the end of the world.
And therefore you should visit him as often as possible because loads of his lines are solid gold.
Do you have any idea where it may be hidden?
Excuse me? Now, let me get this right. You're asking me, a bloody gatekeeper, where the former ShadowMan might have hidden a sacred dagger in Deadside, intended for use by another ShadowMan?
I am.
Let me think. Could it be hidden under me hat? In me eye socket? In me left ear, if I had one, that is? No. What about in the past of the bloody shadow, you idiot? I'll be along with you and stop asking me these bloody stupid questions.
Though it does become very tempting to shoot him.
Ah, what the hell are you playing at, you idiot?
While I knew there isn't much in the way of puzzles, playing it again, it kinda dawned on me how much time you spend finding switches that'll open doors, unblock passages, or do something that will allow you to venture deeper through the area. There's nothing wrong with that, but eventually it can get a little tedious. There is a lot of platforming involved, and the obstacles in your way become more of a challenge the further through the game you are. The only downside is that if you die, you will restart in a set place in that area, so if you die right at the end of the temple, you'll have to run all the way back through it to get back to where you were. Each time it happened, I always yelled the same thing.
Shit.
Of course, there are other things to find throughout Liveside and Deadside other than the Dark Souls. Voodoo artifacts are mainly used for fighting enemies, but most have a secondary use, like the flambeau, which can be used to light up dark areas, as well as burn through certain tapestries, and the baton, which can be used to warp between altars. Just use a bit of caution when seeing where one leads. It's still worth wandering around, as you never know what you might stumble across.
These gifts I give to thee, O gracious Loa, O generous Loa, a spiritual trade for life beyond.
There are also Gad's voodoo tattoos, which grant the power of resisting burning up around fire and lava, and it's these that really bring the Metroidiness into it. I have always looked forward to getting one, as you see places you can't get to all the way through the game, but once you have the appropriate Gad, you'll be able to go back there and see what wonders are hidden away. Every time it brings the joy of being able to explore new places, and once I even jumped up and down with glee when I remembered a path I hadn't explored yet, even though I had the Gad allowing me to for a while. Playing it now, 15 years after its release, my thoughts on the game have slightly changed. The game wasn't as difficult as I remembered it being, some of the enemies were killed quicker than I thought they would be. I didn't exactly sail through, but the majority of deaths were due to my own poor judgment, though that's not to say I didn't have the odd death at the hands of my enemies, or the surprisingly accurate aim of my enemies. Also, it wasn't quite as scary as I remembered it being, but that could just be because A, I'm older, and B, I'm more used to horror stuff these days. Don't get me wrong, it has its freaky messed up moments, but I always remembered finding the playrooms to be especially freaky, but while it had its moments, it wasn't too bad. But soon after, I found wandering around the dark block of flats in Queens, New York, while being stalked by a crazed murderer wielding 2 nail guns, to be more terrifying than I remembered. You'll probably already have guessed who the final boss will be, but I'm not going to ruin anything. There are two endings depending on whether you win or lose. I actually prefer the lose ending, but there are several great twists that get revealed just before the final battle. You may get some of them, but you certainly won't get them all, and it makes for a shocking end to the game.
The Dark Souls are mine.
ShadowMan may not be the scariest game ever, but it's certainly a great game. It does so many things right that they easily make up for the few annoyances the game has. I loved the game back in the day, and I still love it. Whichever version you get, ShadowMan is certainly good as gold. Except the PlayStation version. Sure, some aspects are a tad dated now, but it's still creepy, still funny, and still hugely enjoyable.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and forever shall be. Amen to that.
See you next time.